Oh,
Hey,
and David's
man.
on the road. Like, this is boots to the ground journalism. We need to hear it. Tell us what's going on. What the heck is happening, David?
Yes, yeah. Well, look, a big trade, obviously, between the Oilers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this was a move that the Oilers had to adjust on. We know for the last couple of weeks they've been speaking more aggressively with the Pittsburgh Penguins about Tristan Jarry and bringing him in. They just didn't want to move Stuart Skinner, and they had to find other ways to try to make the money work. At the end of the day, they bit the bullet and move out Stuart Skinner. His salary plus that of Brett Kulak's makes the money work. That totals about 5.3 million. Jarry's cap hit is 5.375, so it makes the money work. It fits. They were able to pull this off, somewhat reluctantly, but with how things have been going for them, even with the win last night, they felt that bringing in Jarry, who's controllable, he has another year left on his contract, is the right move for them. They make another move, with Nashville to shore up the blue line with Kulak being moved out. But this is a deal that they felt is going to make them better, is going to get them kind of over the hump, especially in the goaltending department, by bringing in Jarry. And they also add a second-round pick in 2029 to this one to offset the overall move with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
How long do you think this decision actually got close to happening? Because it feels like with how good Skinner's been playing, that it would have been hard to make this decision yesterday.
Yeah, of course.
It feels like it
Yeah.
obviously had to be put in motion before that.
Yeah, it certainly was. This is something that, as I mentioned, they've been going back and forth trying to figure out how they would be able to pull this off, and even looking at other options by keeping Skinner, moving out Calvin Pickard, who just has a $1 million cap hit. Even him and Kulak, they would have needed to make additional money, to move out additional money, and they obviously weren't able to pull that off. So this is something that it sounded like late last night. They kind of came to the framework of the deal and ultimately just signed off on everything this morning in order to push this over the finish line. But this is something that they had been battling internally. They'd been going back and forth. They like Stuart Skinner. They like him in that room. Unfortunately, this is just how sports works sometimes, and they feel this is the right move in order for them to get an upgrade between the pipes.
I was pretty surprised looking at Jarry's numbers that he's a 9-1 this year with a 909 save percentage. Sorry, he last year struggled a bit, but all in all has been a pretty good goaltender in the NHL.
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's fluttered, in the last couple of years, but this is a guy that has a lot of experience with the Pittsburgh Penguins in successful times, and I think a lot of his performance in the last few years has been more indicative of the overall team performance. And as you know, seeing the Oilers on a regular basis, especially in the first going of the season, goaltending's not doing well. It's also a reflection of how the overall team hasn't been doing. And this is a club that, and Stan Bowman, their GM, has acknowledged that it hasn't strictly been, in the first couple of months of the season anyway, it wasn't strictly the goaltending that was the primary issue. It was other areas of this team. But battling injury, having a lack of depth because of it, affected the rest of the roster. And that's something similar that's happened to Tristan Jarry over the last few years in Pittsburgh, to the point where, especially goaltenders, we know they play head games with one another. It affected his performance. He had to get sent down. He had to kind of reclaim his game a little bit, which we've seen this season. But from Pittsburgh's perspective, with a plethora of good young talent between the pipes that's coming up, they felt that this was something that they could afford to do. Move out Jarry, bring in Skinner, who's on an expiring contract, gain a second-round pick out of this overall, and it frees up money going into next season for the Penguins.
How much information does someone like Skinner know before this happens? Or are these players put on the spot last minute and they're told, like, pack up your family, you're hitting the road, you got a game next week? Like, what's the process there, if you know?
It obviously it varies. It's situational. I mean, typically, around trade deadline, when things have to happen like this, you get most of these guys find out after it's already reported. in these types of circumstances, when there is a lot of lead time, I think Stuart Skinner was and Tristan Jarry were both aware of the fact that this might be a possibility. You know, the GMs will communicate not necessarily directly with the players, but at least with the agents as well to let them know this is what's going on. We don't want you to be blindsided by this if something does happen. We're not there. We're not at the finish line, but just a heads up, a courtesy kind of check-in. And then the agent's job is to relate to the players and keep them informed and just, prepare them for what might happen. Family-wise, how this is going to affect things off the ice. There are a lot of intangibles that come into play here that a lot of, we don't think about necessarily right away because we just see, pro athletes, names on papers, guys on the ice, on the jerseys, names on the back of the jerseys, and like, okay, whatever, we'll see you on another team. But there is the personal side of this that comes into play. So I believe there's been lead time for a lot of these types of situations, specifically this one. But, it's up to the GMs to accept this, and there's no guarantee something will happen. In this case, obviously, they were able to make this work because, again, the Oilers pivoted in their mind, in their thought process, in trying to make this one work in order to, again, how they feel upgrades their goaltending.
Do you think the Oilers will make another goalie move this season?
I'd be pretty shocked. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit surprised that they did pivot, that they were able to make this happen, because the notion that I had been getting in the last, couple of weeks was they wanted to tandem this. They didn't want, and others have reported this too, that they didn't want to part with Stuart Skinner, at least this season. They wanted to, if they were going to make something big and impactful, it was going to be in the off season. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they felt that this was something that they needed to do now, and ultimately decided, okay, look, we just got to make this happen. So we're gonna move Stuart Skinner out. I would imagine that this is going to put them in a proper comfort zone moving forward, where if they do make any other adjustments to the roster or to the team itself, it's going to be in other areas of the roster outside of the crease.
This feels like a big price to pay for Jarry. Am I wrong to say that? Like, when I found out that it involved Kulak, I understand that they had to make the money work, and a second, It just feels like there's a lot going their way, especially, I mean, maybe it's recency bias, but how good Skinner and Kulak have played as of late. It just feels like a lot to me.
I mean, yeah, this is, I mean, Pittsburgh wasn't going to give him away, even though they have a lot of kids in the system and in the pipeline that are going to take over the crease. They weren't just interested in just giving Jarry away, and they didn't want to retain any money on that deal, which was, again, a big reason why the Oilers had to adjust and pivot and say, okay, we're going to add Stuart Skinner into this mix. I think they were going to address the goal. I feel, and I felt strongly that there was going to be a new number one goalie in Edmonton next season anyway. And with Skinner's contract expiring, you just kind of get ahead of this right now. Maybe a little bit surprised that they've added a second round pick into this, but it's not till 2029. So there's a lot of lead time there. And if it's an added incentive, because they don't have a deep cupboard by any stretch, prospect wise, or with respect to draft picks. So, for them, you feel that the juice is worth the squeeze. You pull this off now. If it works out and you go far in the postseason again and you hoist the Stanley Cup, then hey, it's all worth it. But that's what they're ultimately trying to do, and they feel that this puts them in a better position to do that this year.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, like it, hype it, and share it with your friends.
And to not miss any of our content, make sure you're subscribing to the Oilers Nation YouTube channel. Freaking nailed it!